people sometimes confuse reduction of benefit and tax. Like when does Social Security get taxed and they reduce your benefit? And so we're actually talking about two separate things.
Right.
So if you make over a certain amount, they'll tax 50 to 85% of your Social Security. This is actually a reduction of
the benefit
your benefit itself.
Yeah, it's two different
So it
things.
can this would happen, and it could also be taxed.
All thoughts and opinions shared in this recording belong to the participants. This podcast is meant to inform and educate and should not be seen as solicitation or endorsement for business.
Welcome to the Market Moment. This is Matt here with John.
Good morning.
And Isaac.
Hello.
How are we doing today, man?
I'm doing great.
Good?
Fantastic.
Getting back in the flow of things after Thanksgiving.
Thanksgiving, yeah. It's how was y'all's Thanksgiving?
It was
anything too exciting
wonderful.
or just pretty normal?
Nothing exciting in our house. It was
Yeah.
it was
great.
Spend it with family. It was great.
It was. I told Matt this when I walked in the Monday after. It was like about Saturday afternoon of having to be home with my 2-year-old constantly. New respect for my wife, but I was like, I think I'm ready to go back to work. Like I'm ready to go back to the office.
It was a lot
It
of
was
days
a lot
off.
of days at the house.
It's like,
And
I
even-
love my job.
And then like Monday morning, my son actually opened the door and was like,
See ya.
Get out. He
That's-
was sick of me too.
That's funny. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
But no,
Well,
it was good though.
Good. All right, so today we're going to talk about kind of the question of the day. We've got two we're going to tie in here together. Talking about Social Security and working kind of part-time as you're transitioning into retirement. But the first question is, can I work while receiving Social Security benefits? So we get this a fair amount with people looking, especially people looking to
Either partially retire.
or you have some people that come in that have very strong opinions on Social Security. Hey,
Right.
it's not going to be there long term. Maybe they don't have a long life expectancy
Right.
for various reasons, and so
Right.
they're like, hey, I've always planned on when I turn 62 or 63, like I'm starting Social Security.
Yeah.
And what does that look like, and how does it impact things if you're still working? Maybe you're still making an income. So kind of answering the question, John, just for what it is, like, can you work if you're still receiving Social Security?
You can work and receive Social Security. There are obviously, as we talk about in here, it's all relative to the certain plan, but there are definitely things to consider if you turn it on while you're working.
Yeah.
Right, like your earning amount.
Because if you make, so you can work, you can make as much money as you want and be on Social Security, but they're going to reduce your Social Security benefits if you make too much money.
Yeah, and just put it in perspective, if you make over $23,400, okay, every dollar over that, or they reduce your benefit $1 for every $2 of benefits over that limit, right? So if you make $100,000, you're not making very much, so it probably wasn't worth turning it on.
Right.
Right. If you're part-time and you're making $30,000 and you have that small amount taken, I mean, you have to just do the math.
Yeah.
Is it worth it or not? Should I
Because
wait?
not only are you getting a reduced benefit from Social Security, but you've locked in. You're not getting the accrual for deferring your Social Security benefit.
Right.
Right.
I have two clients in Oklahoma. Both of them are in this exact same boat, right? And they were trying hard to stay underneath that $23,000 line.
Yeah.
And I thought it was funny because I talked to him the other day, and he was like, "Yeah, this year we went over it. We just can't worry about it anymore. It's more advantageous to continue what we're doing and make a little bit more. We're making more by doing that, even though they're reducing Social Security. So it's just a math equation. And if you want to continue to work that hard, type of a question or an answer.
Well, then I have clients that come in and they don't know about the reduction until we have that conversation. And the idea is always, hey, I'm 64. I'm probably gonna work for another 3 or 4 years anyways. Why don't I just turn it on and I'll invest what I'm getting? And it comes down to that. Well, you're locking in a lower monthly benefit anyways.
Yeah.
And so if you don't need it to survive, which comes back to it's a very personal decision. But locking in that lower rate, reducing your benefit. Another thing that comes up is Social Security has all these weird, we've had a couple episodes about it. It's very particular. The numbers get down to it. People sometimes confuse reduction of benefit and tax. like when does Social Security get taxed and they reduce
Yeah.
your benefit. And so we're actually talking about two separate things.
Right.
So if you make over a certain amount, they'll tax 50 to 85% of your Social Security. This is actually a reduction of
The benefit
your benefit
itself.
itself.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
two different
So it
things.
can this would happen, and it could also be taxed.
Well, another
Yeah.
confusing
So-
statement. I'm going to read this. This is kind of just to make it even more confusing. If you are in the full retirement age year, if you reach your full retirement age year during the year, the earnings limit changes. For the months before you reach full retirement age, the limit is $62,000. In this case, the Social Security will deduct $1 for every $3 you earn above this limit, but only for the months before you reach full retirement age. So
Yeah.
it's like
So
changes.
then
Yeah,
it,
there's
it,
like a
cha- it
weird-
changes.
So everything we just talked about completely goes away if you've reached full retirement age, right? So if your
Exactly.
full retirement age is
No limit. Yep.
is 67. So if you were born in 1960 or later, your full retirement age is 67. If you start Social Security benefits at 67 or later, you can make as much money as you want, and your Social Security is not impacted at all, right?
Right.
And so we're only talking about filing for those that are considering filing or have filed pre their FRA, their full retirement age. That is when your Social Security benefits will be impacted if you make too much money. Another caveat to that is those benefits are only impacted until you then reach full retirement age. So if you start
Exactly.
benefits at 62, and you're working full time, making $80,000 a year, your Social Security is reduced. But if you continue working to 70, as soon as you hit 67, if that was your full retirement age, then all of the penalties for making too much go away because you are now your full retirement age.
Right.
And so
Yeah.
hopefully that makes sense. I know there's a lot of like dates and years in there, but it's only applicable for those people that have filed pre full retirement age, and it's only applicable until you reach full retirement age. It's not something that you're going to be penalized on forever,
Right.
Yeah.
even if you work until your 70s.
I encourage people, if they are really, really concerned about this and they're really debating, talk to the Social Security office.
Yeah.
And there's really good one in Fayetteville, if you're in the area here. But find your local one. Don't call the
Do not call the 1-800 number.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't call
unless
Washington.
you have a couple
right.
days.
Right. Don't call
Just
Washington.
sit on
But
hold.
find your local office. They really, really help. I've sent people to the local offices in Oklahoma, Arkansas, other places. They're fantastic. They will take your specific case and tell you exactly what you should expect.
Yeah.
So it's actually worth doing if you're contemplating doing that, and it's keeping you up at night, on how much you're going to have to pay or whatever. I would definitely look at the Social Security office.
So the calculation and the when it comes to when should you start Social Security is actually very complicated because it's a life expectancy calculation.
Right.
But it's also like how long are you working? How much income are you going to have? There's a lot of variables that play into it. So and it's not something that you can undo and redo later. Like
Yeah.
once
Exactly.
you make that
Once-
decision. So
Yeah.
just making sure you know all the caveats and the different moving pieces to what that means for you, what your plan is. And this is kind of a perfect segue into the second part of this question, or just kind of a different question that's somewhat related. But should I work part-time before fully retiring? I think I'm actually a huge fan of this.
Okay.
So I encourage a lot of our clients that we work with to, if you think if you're someone that's worked 50, 60, 70 hours a week for 40 years, and then you get to a day and you said, hey, I'm retiring. All of a sudden you just cold turkey stop. It can be done, and it can be done really well, but it takes a lot of effort and planning and self-reflection and like, what am I going to go do now to keep myself busy so that, because it's just you're you were talking about Thanksgiving break, right? You go home for a few days and you're like,
Yeah.
what's going on? Well, what if that was permanent?
Yeah.
And you're like, well, shoot, like you've got to fill that time to stay productive and motivated.
Exactly.
And so I'm a huge fan of like, hey, maybe you retire from your corporate or career kind of job, but then you go do something that you love,
Right.
that you enjoy, that doesn't feel like work, that's maybe part-time. Maybe it's not paying you a lot of money, but it's keeping you active and productive. And that's kind of your transition into retirement. I think it can be one, extremely emotionally and physically like good for your health.
Yeah.
But two, it can be very impactful, positively impactful on your retirement situation because if you can make enough, or even if you don't make the full amount that you need to live off of, but a good portion of it, and you're not having to immediately start taking out of your investment accounts and retirement accounts, and you can delay that for 2 or 3 years,
or you can delay Social Security
Social Security, that helps. Like when you run a scenario of retiring at 63 cold turkey versus 63, and then you have some part-time income until 65,
right?
And you run the analysis out, like
health insurance alone.
Difference.
If you can work part-time and still get health insurance, a lot of people will. Great example. Got a guy that works for Walmart, tough job, works a lot of hours. He is literally at 62. He's going to start delivering. Completely different, no stress, right?
Yeah.
And I love the idea because he gets to keep his health insurance till 65. That was one of the bigger concerns, but that's a lot of people. If health insurance is a concern, when to turn Social Security on. By the way, when we do planning, right, the ultimate end result of our planning always says to defer Social Security the longest because it says we're going to die at 95.
Yeah, because we're assuming
our planning
long
assumes
life.
95. Obviously, those factors go into play, but if you're healthy and you have good lung genes in your family, the longer you can delay Social Security, the better for you because it's a much better check as you get. So the part-time thing, bridging the gap for health insurance, for Social Security benefits, all that stuff is very important.
Yeah.
And for your sanity at home, because like you said, a lot of people
it's hard.
end up wanting to go back to work because they don't know what to do.
Yeah.
And they've lost that fulfillment.
There's a book I was reading called How to Retire, and it doesn't focus on the finances of retirement at all. It's strictly the psychology of it. And it was a guy who retired the first time, and after playing golf every day for 7 days a week for a year, he was like, I don't think I like golf as much as I used to.
Yeah.
The more you play golf, the more you hate it.
You dream about playing golf every day for 40 years, and then you do it, and you're like, man, this
stinks.
sucks.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Yeah, it can be really hard. So I think it's something that everyone should think about. Not necessarily, for some people maybe it's more of a need. Hey, I need to go work part-time to make a little extra money to make this work.
Sure.
Especially if you're trying to retire earlier. But I think everyone should absolutely think about, what are you retiring to? What's the transition phase from full-time employment to not being employed at all? Maybe it's volunteer work where there's no compensation involved.
Right.
Maybe it's a part-time job where you're being compensated. But having some kind of transition into that next stage of life and plan is so important. I mean, we see it all the time, and the how successful your retirement is, I think, is a huge factor that goes into that. Is just how well did you prepare, not only financially, but emotionally.
Emotionally, yeah.
And all of those things. So, yeah, to answer the question, I think it's should I work part-time before fully retiring? I think it's something that everyone should consider.
Right.
And we probably all have those jobs.
Yeah.
That's like, man, I think that would be really cool to do that.
Sure.
There are days in the summer. I mean, not today because it's like 12 degrees outside, but there are days in the summer where I'm like, I would love to be mowing yards again. It was a high school.
That's crazy.
It was a high school job. I love being outside. And like, there are so many days in the summer. It's like, I would love to just be on a mower, mowing yards.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Mm-hmm. So who knows? Maybe I'll start a new business.
Hey, we have clients that are doing that. I mean, I've got one that retired and he mows yards from March to the first mow to the end. And when he stops mowing, he's in that time right now, it's like boring to him. He doesn't know what to do, and he's getting close to 70, and he has a ton of lawns he does for it. It's awesome.
I think that's great.
But it just gives him something to do.
That's really cool.
Yeah. So talking about Social Security, can I work while receiving Social Security benefits? Definitely look into that. A lot of nuances and things to be aware of, and then thinking about working, part time after you're done fully, working full time, but transitioning into retirement. So, good topics of discussion. So, a couple things, in the market as we get close here to the end of the year. Any thoughts on recent events and things that have been going on?
Well, there's a lot of stuff going on, right? I mean, we had I thought some positive stuff though. The retail sales numbers for Black Friday were good. Probably better than expected because we've been hearing a lot of stuff, and I've been talking about this on the show. We've got pretty high debt. We've got, I'm talking about consumer debt. We've got pretty high consumer debt. We've got a job situation. We've got a lot of news of companies laying off people and so on, and it seems a little bit tough. And then you see those retail sale numbers outperform what they were expected. It's like, okay, well, we're still spending. So somehow we're finding a way to spend the money. So that was good, I thought. And then December, you had a little chart on December, but the Fed, you were going to talk about.
Yeah, I
the
was going
Fed.
to say, so the Fed's meeting in December. There's been some volatility in the market, kind of weighing what they're going to do, what they're not going to do. The odds of them cutting in December is up to 87%. So it's looking like we're going to get a cut in December. And I'm trying to see what they're expecting it to be. A quarter
I'm sure
percent?
that's just a quarter.
Yeah,
It's just quarter. I think
Yeah.
it was like 73% like a week ago.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
So you're
and
seeing the
then 2
numbers
weeks ago it was
creep.
like 50.
Yeah, so it's creeping,
creeping
up
up a
every
little bit. Mhm.
Even though that's what's interesting, the retail sales, there's some strong indicators on the economy which would kind of go against
It's
a
just
rate.
leave. Yeah.
Right. So it's weird, but 87% sounds good.
We're in a
Hopefully.
we're in a
It's a
yeah. There
well, the Fed chairman's getting
it's
a
a
lot of
weird
heat from the
spot
White House, right?
now. I mean, you've
Yeah.
got a labor
Yeah.
market that's tightening.
Right.
You've got inflation that is much better than it was.
Much better it was, but
But
still.
people are still struggling just because
People
of
still-
the compounding effect of the last few years. And you've got a market at all-time highs. So they're in a. I would not want to be Jerome Powell.
No, I wouldn't either.
but-
He's,
It's been a good year in the market overall. Most of the major indexes, all the major indexes, I think, are up double digits. December historically, if you look at the S&P 500 return since 1950, December is the third best month historically. So November is historically the best month, followed by April and then December. So November, December are two of the top 3 months of the year. We saw some volatility over the last few weeks, which I actually thought was a good sign, and kind of
Sure.
going into the end of the year of like,
Sure.
hey, having that volatility, the market pulls back 3-4%,
Yep.
like kind of sets us up for a good maybe end of year kind of
little rally.
little
yeah.
rally into the end of the year.
Yeah.
I
want to give
a
you
lot
guys
to be positive about just from a market's perspective.
I know,
but-
yeah, the market. I wanted to give you guys a inflation number to kind of put into perspective. The 10 years prior to COVID, our average annual rate of consumer price index, which is the inflation rate, is 1.7%. Since COVID, our average is 4.2% annual rate, which peaked at 9% in 2022, which is just kind of hard to believe.
Insane. Yeah.
But you think about that. So to your point, like, yes, inflation is cooling as an overall number, but we're averaging 4.2%. We're triple what we were for the previous 10 years prior to COVID.
Yeah.
Which that has affected a lot of people in a negative way, and it's still there. So even though the inflation numbers look a little better, I think inflation will cool a little bit as we go. The M2 measure of money supply has gone down consistently, which is a good sign of cooling inflation, other things. But hopefully we're getting back to that. We're 4.2, 10 years from now, or 5 years from now, the 10-year rate will average, only 3%. Then that would be great, right? That means we'd be cooling for the next 5 years. But anyway, I thought that was
a lot of
onto your
things.
point.
I was looking at a chart earlier. I don't have it ready, but there was a chart that's showing like, hey, market returns tend to cluster, like all-time highs and
Right.
things like they cluster. It's not like this steady. Hey, the market does, 10% a year after year,
Right.
right? You get these, and the same is with inflation, right? We had this decade, 10, 15-year period. It was artificially low,
Right.
because of everything we were doing. We tried to get it to go higher. They dropped rates. It didn't. But it was
Sure.
like low for whatever reason. It was low. It was low for a long time. And so now we're getting this clustering of higher inflation prints, which sucks. I mean, I'm not like belittling
stinks for the
impact
people
of
in
that.
it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I have 3 kids, and groceries are crazy.
Oh, yeah,
what they used
exactly.
to be a year, a handful of years ago. But I don't think we should be surprised. Like historically, if you look back at it, inflation, like higher periods of inflation are just periods that cluster, where you had like
Right.
low inflation for a period of time, and then bam, you had 2, 3, 4, 5 years, higher inflation, right? You get this long-term average, but it's not this necessarily smooth and steady ride. And I know that's what
Sure.
the Fed is going for. They're, in a
Yeah.
perfect world, we would have a 2.5% print on inflation year after year after year, and they try to smooth out the volatility of the inflation number, but that's just not realistically how it's going to happen.
No, and
it
when you
never has
throw-
been, and we shouldn't expect it to be moving.
You shouldn't expect it. But also, when you throw in a world pandemic that has never happened in the history
Right.
of our country, where this is, where we shut down the government, we shut down companies, we printed money from no actual production. Those things have not happened. So that automatically, those things helped promote a massive inflation problem. But those are outlier things that you just can't expect, or you can't put that blame on the Fed or anybody else. That's a hard deal that we went through. So we're just smoothing that back down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So last thing I want to mention, we can end with this is, the market's at or near all-time highs, right? Depending on which index you're looking at. And I know there's a lot of times people saying, well, like, should we invest? Like, if you have new money, right? You sell a business, you have an influx of new money. Should we be investing at market, all-time highs? And there are ways to do that well and smooth that out and manage your risk for sure. But something to be aware of, if you look back at, here's a chart that we'll throw up on the screen. If you invested at over the last 11 bull markets, if you invested at the peak, what has been your annualized return through today? So this was through 12/1, so yesterday. What would have been your annualized return, right? If you had invested at the peak of 2020, you would have annualized 15%. If you would have invested at the peak of 2007, so right before the great financial crisis, but stayed invested all the way through, you would have averaged annually 8.5% since then. Right, if you had invested at the peak of 2022, 12.4. And so you'll see this chart's on the screen. So, basically, it's like the worst time you could have invested at a peak was at the peak in 2000.
Yeah.
And you still would have averaged over 6% annually. Right?
Which, to your point, this is fantastic because that's the point of why emotion can really kill an investor. Think about what you're just saying there. That means you take all of your money you've accumulated in your 401ks, whatever, and you put it at one point, you put it in the market at the all-time high, which is not going to happen.
Yeah.
Right? It's unrealistic. You're going to dollar cost average in. You're never going to do that so incorrectly.
Right.
And the point is, even if you did it so incorrectly, you still win.
You outpaced inflation and made
you
a good,
outpaced
solid
bonds, you
long-term
outpaced
return.
CD rates. I mean, it's kind of funny. Even in the worst. So anyway, that's a good case for slow and steady wins the race.
Well, and not being afraid of all-time highs.
Yeah, not being afraid of all-time highs, not being emotional, let it keep you from doing something, anyway.
Yeah. It's super easy to sit here and say we'll wait for the market to correct.
Right.
And you might be waiting for
No,
years.
there's folks that I've talked to that want to wait till certain stocks go down to certain levels and they keep doubling, right? And it's just, okay, keep waiting. I mean, maybe someday you will get that entry point, but.
Yeah. So anyways, markets continue to climb that wall of worry decade after decade. If you have a long enough time horizon and, a lot of it's about just the humility of accepting that we don't know near as much as we like to think we know.
Yeah.
So
100%.
Any final thoughts or words of wisdom?
No words of wisdom.
That's a shock. Really, you got nothing?
I got no words of wisdom. I got words of,
He's got words.
Normal stuff.
Words.
Yeah.
No wisdom.
Well, really enjoyed the conversation today, especially Social Security. There's just a lot. We work with a lot of the, people in that
range,
that 55 to 65 as they're really starting to think about that. So talk to somebody, do your research to know the different, moving parts there and what you should be aware of. But as always, we appreciate you guys watching and listening. Give us a like, subscribe, comment, shoot us an email, and we'll see you guys next week.
The hosts of the Market Moment podcast are employees of Mach 1 Financial Group, LLC. Mach 1 is a registered investment advisor located in Rogers, Arkansas. A copy of Mach 1's current written disclosure brochure is available through the SEC website and available at disclosures.mach1fg.com.